It is time, y'all. I am about to walk you through exactly how I design a room from start to finish using a real room I designed recently for a client. This is a type of video I've never done before on the channel. We're spilling all the secrets, and particularly one thing I do that takes a room from like, okay, it's a designed room, to like, kaboom. One major upgrade, the major upgrade. If you've ever wondered, Caroline, how do I do this? How do I design a room from start to finish? It's so overwhelming. It does not come naturally to me. This is how we do it. This is how we do it. This is a question that I get from viewers all the time. How do I do a full room design from start to finish? That is not the only way that I design rooms. I also sometimes do it a piece at a time. There's many ways to do this process. If anyone tells you there's just one way, they're lying. But this is the way that works for me. This is the process that I use. And here's one thing that I've never really talked about on the channel. Usually in YouTube room makeovers, the usual process you see is like the YouTuber or designer, they choose a subscriber and they might ask them a few questions about their desires for the space, design preferences, stuff like that. And then they kind of like kick them out of their space. They do the makeover and it's a surprise. Basically, the whole makeover is a surprise. And then they bring them back in and do this big reveal. And those are really fun to watch. Like the live reactions are really fun to watch. And I think there are a lot of benefits to doing it that way, but I do not do makeovers that way. Not for someone else. I just cannot get behind making someone live in a space that they did not have a lot of influence on designing. The design process, whether it's for yourself or for somebody else, should have a lot of back and forth. It should ultimately be collaborative about like what works for you, what works for your budget, how do you actually use this room, whatever those specifics are. To me, I can't just take over someone's home, do a design, and hand it over to them. I feel I just can't do it. And so when I do makeovers for people, it is a closer to a traditional collaborative design process. So when you see makeovers like this one, or this one, or this one. Oh my goodness. She's already seen it. I do a reveal where the client or subscriber gets to see the final outcome of the room, but they've seen the entire design plan. They've given feedback on the whole design plan and they have signed off on the entire design plan. So for example, when I did Ashley's makeover, this was the final result. And this was the mock-up she had seen before. So she knew what she was getting, but it's still different to see it in person. Or for Emma's space, this was the mock-up, this is the final result. So the reveal is really more just like, oh, surprise, this is what it actually looks like now that it's in your space. But before that, long before the makeover has started, that client or subscriber has signed off on every single step of the makeover. It's a collaborative process. And you can use the same process that I use with clients. Treat yourself as the client, or if you're doing a makeover for somebody else, this will be incredibly helpful to you. Most recently, I worked on a room design for a client who is actually my second cousin. She lives here in DC. Her name is Emily, and we were working on a space for her nursery. She is having her first child. It's very exciting. She lives in this home with her husband, and I've worked closely with them on the design for this room. This project will be a makeover on my channel. It's not done yet, hasn't been implemented, but I'm gonna walk you through the entire process of just deciding what the design is, every single step of the way. So the very first thing that I have to do for a space, even if the client is you and you're just working in your own home, I do recommend that you take pictures of the space. Sometimes looking at the space through a photo can help clarify your opinions about it. You know how when we scroll through Instagram, we're all like expert design critics and we can be like, I don't like that, I don't like that. Something about the frame and the focus of a photo does help to clarify some of your opinions about a room. You also want to be in the space, moving around the space and figuring stuff out that way, being physically in it, but I like to have both. So even in my own home, I often will just like take a photo of a wall and like stare at the photo. Sometimes when I get stumped, it does help mix things up. So the very first thing that I have to do for a space is to just do a giant brain dump, word dump, idea dump. I like to use Milanote a lot. This video is not sponsored by them. They've sponsored me before, but not sponsored here. You can use Milanote. You can also just use a Google Doc if that's more comfortable to you, but somewhere to dump all of your words, all of your thoughts regarding anything about the room. These don't have to be final thoughts. In fact, they shouldn't be. It should be exploratory. It should be stuff you just want to get out of your head. You can decide to ignore it later. You can decide it's not a priority, but do the brain dump. And this can be functional stuff, design stuff, must-haves, nice-to-haves. Oh, I really saw this style of artwork. I think I might want to be able to incorporate that. Whatever. Just dump it all. Get it out of your head. Don't even try to make sense of it yet. Just do the brain dump. Highly recommend. Because it's too much to like just leave abstract in your mind. Now, once we've got our brain dump on paper, we can start organizing some of the stuff that goes on there. So let's start with functionality goals, things that have to go in the room. Those are must-haves. It has to meet these goals. And then you can have nice-to-haves. The client shared a nice-to-have would be, in addition to somewhere to read a book to their kid, they would also like to have some kind of seating so that the other parent can be in there as well, so they can both sit there. A nice-to-have, meaning like if it doesn't work out, okay, we'll sit them on the floor, but would be nice to have. Now, when you list out your functionality goals, what I'm not looking for is we need 2 chairs, okay? That's like a solution. Right now, we're just starting with naming the problems, naming the function we need to get to. You want to keep it open-minded because you don't know. You need to look at the floor plan, you need to look at your budget, all those things first. So when you're naming out the functionality goals, must-haves and nice-to-haves, don't name the things you have to buy unless you're very certain about it. Like, we definitely do need a crib. Baby's not going in the closet. Actually, my little sister lived in a closet for many years. It was kind of a larger closet, unrelated. But you really want to keep your mind and your options open by sticking to naming the functionality you're trying to get to, not the solution, not yet. Do you like my hat? This is from when I was a coder. I thought this was a pretty great hat. I actually love this hat. This is like one of the best hats I've ever seen. And if you've noticed my sweat outfit, I'll tell you a secret about it, but we'll talk about it at the end of the video. Once you've got all your functionality goals named, we can move on to design goals. And that's gotta include some visuals. I wouldn't just write it out in words. Sometimes people try to do that. They're like, I want it to feel cozy or moody or whatever. You can try that, but it's a visual medium. You need images, and cozy or moody will mean something different to me when I picture that than it will to you. If you're trying to communicate a vision, rely on the visuals because the result will be visual. And for this, I really recommend creating a North Star. That's like a collection of a few images, maybe 4 to 5 images that very clearly capture the look and style you're going for. I made a whole video on how to do this. We don't have time. There's no time right here. I'll link that video, duh. But you want to have your North Star established so that anytime you're getting like sidetracked or lost or confused on your designing journey, you can look back at that North Star and be like, oh yeah, wait, this is what I want. It helps you stay on task. It shows you where to go. Follow the North Star. Ugh. Holiday appropriate. So the North Star for this project was collected by the client. She sent me a series of images that was very cohesive. That's what we want. It shows a pattern. It's preppy, but it's still fresh. There's a lot of repeats of this green, blue, sometimes like a baby yellow. I see a lot of plaid, usually monochromatic walls. I saw a trend here of little like fun paint trim details. Everything is very light and bright. It's lighter toned woods or white painted woods. In addition to refining your design North Star, I also end up naming usually a few design delights, more granular design things. It might be something like this client shared, I love the look of a crib skirt. Delightful. Great to know. So if there's a chance to incorporate a crib skirt, great. A crib skirt alone is not a whole design style, it's not a whole North Star, but it's a specific granular design delight she loves, would love to find a way to incorporate it. It's a delight. Okay, now stop. Stop. Just stop everything. before you go and select a single specific thing you want to put in this room, or start to make a single mock-up or floor plan or mood board, stop and take measurements of that space. You want to take very exact measurements of the space. This will make your life so much easier, to the inch. To the inch. If we're a few inches off here and a few inches off there, you could run into a lot of issues very quickly. Get exact measurements to the inch. That means every door frame, how wide are the windows, how much space is there from the bottom of the window to the ground, how tall is the crown molding, how thick is the trim around the windows, how much space is there between the top of the windows and the ceiling, how high is the ceiling, how high is it with crown molding, how high is it without crown molding. Everything you could think of. It doesn't actually take that long. Make sure you take the time. Get it at least to the inch, half inch, I'd say. Okay, now we can get to the fun stuff, okay? You gotta do the annoying stuff before you can do the fun stuff. But the annoying stuff sets you up well for the fun stuff. So, next I start with doing a floor plan. Just a 2D floor plan. You don't have to use a software. I do use some software. I use SketchUp. They have, I'll link it, they have a free version, not sponsored. It's free, I just use the free one because I do simple shit. It does not have to be complicated. It's very easy to use. Also, link the tutorial that I watched in order to learn how to do a simple floor plan. But I'm sure there's plenty of floor plan tools you can use for this. I've also seen people not use software and they just like use graph paper and measure things out to scale. But the point is, you do want it to be to scale. That's gonna be really helpful for you. There's many creative solutions people do to draw things to scale. Please leave the comments of how you do it. I would love to share that knowledge. I use SketchUp. I don't think it's very difficult. If I can learn it, you can learn it. But at this stage, I'm really just doing the floor plan to define some zones, to define basic functionality. I'm not necessarily selecting the specific chair or the specific crib, but I'm going to use general measurements of like what's an average crib size, what's an average armchair, putting those in the space to figure out like, where's our sleeping zone? Where's our diaper changing zone? Where's our reading zone? Where's the open area where a baby can crawl around zone? You're just figuring out zones for the most part. Maybe a specific thing or two, but this is more for zoning. So for example, I might pull the measurements of like a generic 6-drawer dresser and plop that in there and then find, oh shoot, if we use a normal 6-drawer dresser, we're not gonna have a lot of space for the reading corner. It's gonna feel cramped. So we want something like probably less wide and taller. But we don't have to go and find the specific dresser at that moment because you'll waste a ton of time. It will go on forever. For this moment, you just wanna find like, okay, this is where that zone is. This is how things fit together. Oh wait, we don't actually have space for a second person to sit down. They're gonna have to just sit on the floor or whatever that is. Okay, it's time to do the fun stuff. We're gonna start visualizing our space and selecting the specific products. Now I'll be honest, I do like making a mock-up, and I make my mock-ups in Photoshop, not sponsored, but that's not even what most designers use. I don't think most designers use Photoshop. Use whatever visualization tool works for you. Some people like to use Canva. I've heard of some people using this tool, Spoke. I haven't used it personally, but seems chill. Some people, even designers I know, just make more of kind of like a collage where it might not look exactly like a room, but you're seeing how certain patterns and colors go together. Just make a collage. That works fine too. There's about a million ways to like visualize the room. And this phase involves a little back and forth between both the 2D floor plan and the mock-up and the budget and the design aesthetic, because all 4 of those influence each other. You know, if we can only afford this wallpaper and it's in blue, then it might change what color rug we pick. So there's a bunch of like going back and forth, and I kind of switch between floor plan, checking the measurements, looking at the prices, putting in the mock-up or collage or visualizer, making sure it looks okay together. It is a puzzle, and this phase takes a lot of time, but that's how you get to a result you like. And then when you actually make purchases, you hopefully don't have to return too many things or switch too many things out. I like to do more mock-ups when I'm having to communicate that vision to someone else, because it is very difficult for somebody else to have your vision or to see your vision. It's pretty much impossible. You have to work really hard to try and communicate that vision to your partner, or your who-de-do, who else would you ever be showing this to? So when I'm trying to communicate a vision to somebody else, I do end up doing way more mock-ups, but if it's just for you, you don't have to do this many. Hi, that's my baby cat. That's my baby cat, I love you. So for picking out specific things, personally, I like to start with what is going to get me excited about the space. This isn't a hard rule, but that's what I always follow. So in this space, it's white walls. I just want to start getting some color and some of that design style in. And I found this wallpaper, which I thought was so cool. I love a plaid, she loves a plaid. It's got the right colors, the green and the blue and the whatever. And I just thought, like, if this isn't perfect, I don't know what is. So love this wallpaper. I know she goes big on the green and blue, so we've got a lot of the green covered. Great, let's bring in a little bit more of that blue, have a little bit of contrast. Found this amazing powder blue rug that's very comfortable, very cushy, good for little baby knees to crawl around on. And then let's take that fun trim paint I was seeing in her North Star images, throw that blue on the trim, and boom. We've already got the foundation of our aesthetic in the room. The North Star is already represented here. And all we've done is like buy two things and paint something. Y'all, I may be incredibly jet lagged right now because I was overseas. I took a little trip with Justin to visit my friend Sheila, and it was the best, and we were in France. But last night, Justin and I landed in the airport in DC, got home, and came home to a freshly cleaned home. That is because we swear by 𝗙𝗟𝗡𝗚, which is a 5-star home service platform. Yeah, it's changed our lives. It's the best. We're addicted to it. I love to give a 𝗙𝗟𝗡𝗚 cleaning service, like a gift card to a friend, someone going through a hard time. It was the best gift to give to myself when we were coming back from a trip. You know, when you come back from a trip and then like the home is just a mess, and the chaos from packing your suitcase or whatever, it's like the worst thing to come home to. Anyway, best thing we ever did was signing up for 𝗙𝗟𝗡𝗚. You can book and review cleaners in your area online. You can look at reviews and photos right on the website and book someone as soon as this week. We use 𝗙𝗟𝗡𝗚 for our like once monthly deep clean. I still do like every couple day cleans on my own, but it's really nice to take the deep clean off my plate because either I will just never do it and the home never feels that good, or it's incredibly stressful to me trying to fit it into my schedule, especially around the holidays. Life just gets so busy. Filming and work for me gets extremely busy, extremely stressful. And I have a cat now, so I really can't afford that. Justin and I like to do their membership. They call it the Forever Clean membership. And it means that we save money on cleanings, and it also means that the cleaning is just on the schedule. I know it's coming up. I don't have to spend time scheduling it. But then also if I need to move or adjust the time, I can do that anytime. It's really great. A 𝗙𝗟𝗡𝗚 cleaning is great to give as a gift to yourself, to someone else, or you just want to get a little more time back in your life. I would like the opportunity to have more time back in my life and have a little more sanity, a little less stress. If you too would like to experience that miracle, you definitely want to try 𝗙𝗟𝗡𝗚. You'll understand what I mean. You can't go back. This is the level up. And if you go to the link 𝗙𝗟𝗡𝗚.com/Caroline Winkler, you can get your first 3 hours of cleaning for only $19. Discount terms apply. Hello? I just had to take a break from filming this because I'm having such a hard time articulating what I want to say. And I was like, what's wrong with me? And then I realized I'm incredibly jet lagged. I got back less than a day ago. It's like 3 a.m. for me right now. I'm incredibly jet lagged. Okay, we're just gonna finish it. Cool. You can also start with selecting like what are the most crucial items that you absolutely need to have in the room. Like we have to have a couch in here, or what will be the most expensive items. A couch might be both of those. And this room is like, we definitely need a crib, we definitely need a dresser, and those also might be some of the more expensive items. So I did want to select those first so that we know how much room do we have left in our budget. There's quite a range. of pricing. You could end up thrifting or buying secondhand for both of these. That would save a lot of money. But in this situation, the client preferred to buy new. So we wanted to make sure to find some pieces that would not disrupt our design aesthetic, but also weren't gonna break the bank. So there were a couple different cribs that like were really cool and we both loved, but they were just gonna be way more expensive. So we ended up going with something a little more neutral, but it's well made, well reviewed, works well for the space. Are they the craziest pieces we could have ever bought? No, but we'll bring in that personality elsewhere. And if we blew the whole budget on a crib or dresser, that would kind of suck. So are there more interesting looking cribs than this? Yes. Could I blow a lot more money on one? For sure. But you're kind of taking in all of those, you know, design preferences, budgets, one at a time. And that's why I like to start with those most expensive items first. Great, so we've already got a ton of the basic functionality. I know we're slapping a changing pad on top of that dresser, so we can use it as a changing table. Let's shift gears to the other zone we wanted to have in here, which was some kind of little reading corner. The client said that they had a glider already, like a little rocking chair glider thing. It wasn't like a must-have for her, but I was like, a glider would be very expensive. If you have one you like and it fits the aesthetic, we're for sure using it. She had this really cute like green and white one. It was adorable. I'll link as much stuff as I can. This step is when things get important, okay? This is when we are gonna take this from a room that looks like all these other Pinterest images to a room that is truly designed and unique. So, for example, for a side table for our glider, we could do this one, we could do that one. Those would fit perfectly into the design aesthetic of our North Star. Easy peasy, fits right in. So you can do that. To me, that is less satisfying. Whether I'm designing for myself or for a client, I want to satisfy their design aesthetic, but I also want to elevate it. And elevate it doesn't mean make it actually like better. What I mean is like make it unique. Otherwise, it's more like design by numbers, like paint by numbers to me, and less like artistic creation of something new. So this is the moment where I say, great, we've already got our bases covered. We've already matched the design aesthetic. What is something new and unexpected that we can add? How can we make a choice that's a little more surprising and a little out of sync? This is where I decided to hit it with a raspberry red. I felt like this would be a really fun accent color in the room, and adding in a raspberry red, it just modernizes it to me, and it feels a little more chic, a little more designed. It actually makes it feel more mature to me. Like this is a cool space. It's not just green and blue and white. It's like, row, 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 yes, me too. You wanna come sit with me? You're very whiny. Okay. I found this raspberry red lacquered side table. I love that. Again, like chic, modern, kind of elevates the more traditional preppy style. That's more predictable, sticks to the equation. We jump out of that just in some accent pieces. Other great places to do that are in your accessories, the things that are changeable and move around. Could you get a bright red rug? You could, but just know that when you wild out with the larger items in your space, you're gonna run a higher risk of getting away from your North Star. So more often, I like to just kind of lightly riff on the North Star by wilding out on those accent pieces and things that can be moved around, easily find alternatives, move to other rooms, blah, blah, blah. So I'm hitting it with some sconces on the wall. Boom, raspberry red. I'm hitting it with that lampshade that's gonna go on our floor lamp. Boom, raspberry red. I'm hitting it with our overhead light. Boom, raspberry red. It's not actually a lot in this room, but it makes such a difference. I'm taking the room from this, designed by numbers, fits the equation, it's mathematically predictable, to this. It feels a little more unique, it feels a little more chic, a little more modern, a little more elevated, more like a statement, but it still really matches this North Star. Of course, I was not designing this room for myself, I was designing it for a client, and I loved it, but you never know how it's gonna sit with somebody else. And so I was a little nervous. Showed it to her, and she was obsessed. She was obsessed. She was so obsessed with the pop of red. It's a small thing, but it makes a big difference. She was so obsessed with it that she took this exact color palette and used it for her baby shower. Then when I showed up to her baby shower, everything was like green and blue with this like red pop accent color. And she was so proud of it. She was so excited. She was really sweet about it. It made me so happy. It made me so happy because I loved it. And I was like, do other people like this? So that is the key. You establish your North Star and you do still want to stay true to it, but you also want to find a little way to riff on it. You throw some art in there that is a little less expected. You throw in some furniture style that goes a little against the grain, you know, brings in a little bit of friction or a little bit of surprise. That is what it's going to make it feel unique and designed, and it's also going to be what makes it timeless, in my opinion, because if you can wild out and riff on the thing a little bit and you love it, it just saves your space from being like time-stamped with a certain design style. It's more just true to you. Now, one thing that I haven't mentioned, because it took me a while to decide for this room, was curtains. I knew I wanted some curtains to flank that wall. When we enter the room, the wall is the first thing we see, those windows, let's just frame it out. Let's also add some like textiles, something cozier to warm up the room. I knew I wanted to like basically flank the whole window with a curtain. I did not know what color I wanted to go with. I didn't know if we wanted a whiter or a bluer or a greener, and went back and forth in this a bunch of times throughout the design. And there's always that one thing in a design plan that like you just waffle on, and it could go a bunch of different directions, and you've looked at it for too long, and sometimes you think it should be this, sometimes you think it should be that. When you get caught in this waffling, step away. Step away. You have tired eyes, you have overwhelmed yourself with too many inputs of budget and style and North Star and measurements and this and that. Sometimes you really can overwhelm yourself. The best thing you can do is step away. Then I was able to come back to this and be like, oh, we're obviously going with sage curtains. I want the curtains to blend in with the rest of the wallpaper. We're going with sage. Boom, curtains. Y'all, we have officially entered the frivolity stage. This is just doing fun stuff. Great, we've got the functionality covered, but what are some additional things that we can throw in to not just meet the basic functionality, but make this feel like a space that is lived in? Hit that wall with some bookshelves that are low to the ground, accessible to a kid. Babies can't stand, but eventually they will become toddlers who can. Let's throw a little stool in there. Maybe they'll step on it, and if they don't, it's cute. It adds a little dimension to the space. I love a stool. I would collect stools if I could. Actually, I can. I don't know why I'm limiting myself in this way. I could collect stools. I feel like there's a hair on my face. I feel like there's multiple hairs on my face. Why haven't I been collecting stools? Great. Slap that glider with the throw pillow. I feel like we need to bring in that raspberry accent color, get a little piping detail. I'm obsessed with this throw pillow. Adorable. For the little reading corner, I want to also finish it out with an ottoman. This is going to be our extra seating for other parent or whoever. It's not going to be in the way, but it can be used as a stool. You can get a storage ottoman that holds toys or whatever. A child can sit on this. Ottomans are versatile. I don't need to explain ottomans to you. The client loved this as a solution. We're not throwing in another bulky chair there, but we can all kind of sit and enjoy reading time. And I did want to go with like a skirted ottoman here. I know she loves that skirting detail. It's just fun. It's frivolous. It brings a little more dimension. We have a lot of flat surfaces otherwise. You know we want to get a mirror above that changing table. It's going to be well anchored to the wall. I'm not going to be the one to do that. I promise you that. We're going to get a professional. I can't be responsible for this baby's life, but we definitely want a mirror on the wall because babies are obsessed with mirrors. Babies are obsessed with themselves. That is their job. Get a mirror. We can wild out with a fun little hamper. I thought this was adorable. And I'll tell you what, something that I don't usually decide firmly at this point is specific art or other wall decor. We've got a mirror up there, maybe some options for wall decor, but specific individual styling items or wall art, I decide that once everything is already installed in the room. And this is true for a lot of professional designers, unless there's like that statement artwork that we know we want included in the room, or this family heirloom picture that we know we want out on the table or whatever. Aside from that, a lot of styling and artwork gets played around with once everything else is already in the space. So I personally would suggest getting all the other items in the space, and then I like to go in and kind of consider artwork. I don't know. I just feel like artwork takes so much time to decide. I often can't make a choice from a mock-up. It really like depends on being in the space, holding up colors, holding up different options and seeing what feels right. So that I hold off for usually until the very end. Next up, we go in, we order everything, we assemble the room. This step is pretty much exactly what it sounds like. For me, once everything is in there, then I like to walk around and feel out like, okay, this wall actually feels really busy. Maybe we only want one artwork up there. Or it would be really nice to be able to be looking at a photograph instead of art from this chair. I'd love to see a photo. Playing around with styling pieces, playing around with colors. You can use stuff that's already in your home just to test out colors before you go and buy something. And I think it's really nice to give yourself time to like curate and think about the artworks, art pieces, or just give yourself extra time to buy things. If you're buying new, that's okay too. I don't know, I feel like that's such a tricky step. I like to give myself a little extra time and kind of do that last. And boom, we've got an actual room design. I've mocked up all the different sides or like specific zones of this space, as well as some example art, la-di-da. I am delighted to tell you that the clients were delighted with this room design. We did a final round of feedback at the end of this, where they let me know things that were covered in their baby registry, things that didn't have to be counted towards the budget, and also that they didn't want to mess with putting a new overhead light in the room, so we nixed that for the sake of the budget. Excellent, love it. And of course, they'd had many rounds of feedback throughout making all of these selections. As I said, this is a real makeover that we're gonna be executing on the channel. So stay tuned for that because this makeover is in the works. Right here is just the design file. If you wanna see what this mock-up looks like when it's actually made into a room, look out for that video. It will be out in probably December or January, I believe. It's gonna be beautiful. And now you know everything that went into making this possible. Okay, wait, I was gonna tell you about my sweats. I'm wearing the custom sweats from Mia Maples that Mia Maples designed. I've like talked about her a few times on this channel. I'm a pathetic fan. Like, I'm just a fan. I love Mia Maples. She has a great YouTube channel. I don't know what else to say about it. But let me just, I don't even have enough time to say everything I like about Mia Maples. I just like admire her as a person. More importantly, this sweatsuit. Let me talk about this for a second, because this is important to me. Literally, this sweatsuit that I'm wearing right now is everything that I love about Mia Maples and why I admire her and think she's a really great role model to me and to everyone. Because this is what's up. This entire sweatsuit is, first of all, so like nice, heavyweight, good quality, so comfy, adorable, makes my eyes pop. Sweet little embroidery details. This whole like adorable sweatsuit was manufactured in Canada. Thumb holes made in Canada, ethical manufacturing, sustainable materials, good for the environment, good for me because I look adorable, and good for your morals. Like, this is a role model. This is a role model. Anyway, I was feeling really special about my sweat outfit, so I wanted to talk to you guys about it. I will link it, of course. Excuse me, I must go to bed.